When Maya, a kind-hearted black woman, finds a lost child in a busy park, her decision to help leads to a confrontation with society's deep-seated biases. As judgmental stares follow her every step, Maya faces not only the challenge of reuniting the boy with his mother, but also the unsettling prejudices that arise from those around her. In the end, will compassion be enough to break through the walls of assumption and fear? Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more exciting content, and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Now, let's dive in. The late afternoon sun casts a golden hue over the bustling city, its light filtering through the gaps between tall buildings and dancing on the sidewalks. People move hurriedly, a mixture of professionals in their suits, students with backpacks slung over their shoulders, and parents navigating strollers, all weaving through the throngs with purpose. Among them is Maya, a nurse heading home after a long shift at the hospital. Her steps are deliberate, her back slightly hunched from exhaustion, and her eyes reflect a quiet resilience. She grips a small grocery bag in one hand and her phone in the other, listening to a soothing podcast that helps her unwind after her taxing day. Maya's life has always been one of perseverance. Growing up in a world where she had to constantly prove herself, at school, at work, even in social settings, she had developed a thick skin. But no matter how tough her exterior, the weight of societal judgment still clung to her, sometimes in small, subtle ways, and other times in glaring, hurtful ones. Today, she hoped for an uneventful journey home, her mind already drifting to thoughts of dinner and a peaceful evening. As she passes a small park, Maya notices something unusual. A boy standing alone near the park's entrance, clutching a worn stuffed bear to his chest. His clothes are neat, his shoes slightly scuffed from what looks like a busy day of playing, but his face is tear-streaked, and his eyes dart around with growing panic. Maya's footsteps falter. She glances around, expecting to see a frantic parent searching for the boy, but there's no one rushing toward him. For a moment, she hesitates. It's not uncommon for people to lose track of their children for a few minutes in a park this size, especially in a city where distractions are plenty. Maybe his parents are nearby, Maya tells herself. She takes a few more steps forward, her eyes scanning the area, but the boy remains frozen in place, fear etched on his small face. The flood of commuters around the park continues to move, oblivious to the little boy's distress. No one stops, no one even looks twice. It's as if he's invisible. Maya frowns. The longer she watches, the clearer it becomes that the boy is genuinely lost. Her mind races. Should she intervene? Her heart tells her yes, but experience has taught her caution. She knows how easily situations like this can be misunderstood. A lone black woman approaching a lost child might draw suspicion, especially in a world where assumptions and biases run rampant. She's heard enough stories of people trying to help, only to be misjudged by those who don't know the full picture. But looking at the boy, trembling and on the verge of tears, Maya's compassion wins out. She steps forward, adjusting her demeanor to be as non-threatening as possible, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. "Hey there, little guy," she says softly, kneeling down to his eye level. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The boy's eyes snap up to meet hers. For a brief moment, Maya worries he might pull away, that her presence could scare him even more. But instead, he takes a shaky breath and nods, clutching his bear tighter. I can't find my mommy," he whispers, his voice trembling. Maya's heart tightens at the fear in his voice. She reaches out a hand, careful to keep her movements gentle. "It's okay, sweetie. I'm gonna help you find her, all right? You're not alone." The boy hesitates for a second, his small hand twitching at his side, before he slowly reaches out and takes Maya's hand. His tiny fingers grip hers tightly, as if she's his last lifeline. "What's your name?" Maya asks, trying to keep her voice light despite the growing tension she feels from the stares of passers-by. She can sense the eyes on her. Curious, suspicious, even judgmental. She tries to ignore them, focusing instead on the little boy beside her. "Ben," he replies softly. "Okay, Ben, I'm Maya," she says with a reassuring smile. "Let's go find your mommy together, okay?" As they start walking through the park, Maya feels the weight of the world pressing down on her. The boy's hand in hers is small, but it feels like it's carrying a burden far heavier than she could have anticipated. She can't shake the feeling that people are watching her, judging her. She knows what some of them are probably thinking. Why is she with this child? Is she really trying to help him? Or is something else going on? The unspoken accusations sting, but Maya keeps moving forward. She's done nothing wrong, and she won't let the prejudice of others deter her from doing the right thing. Ben's safety is all that matters right now. They pass a couple sitting on a nearby bench, their eyes following Maya and Ben as they walk by. Maya overhears a snippet of their conversation. "Is that her kid?" one of them asks, the words barely a whisper, but loud enough for Maya to hear. "I don't think so," the other replies, his tone more suspicious. Maya's jaw tightens. She wants to turn around and explain, to tell them that she's just trying to help a lost child, but she knows it won't matter. People will believe what they want to believe. Instead, she keeps her head high and her grip on Ben's hand firm. They walk in silence for a few more moments before Ben speaks up again, his voice small and scared. "What if we can't find her?" Maya stops and kneels down beside him once more. "We're going to find her," she says firmly, looking into his tear-filled eyes. "I promise. We just have to stay calm and keep looking." She reaches into her pocket and pulls out her phone, quickly scanning the area for a security station or a park employee who might be able to help. She spots a small kiosk near the playground where a security guard is standing, chatting with a vendor. "There's someone who can help us," Maya says, pointing toward the kiosk. "Let's go talk to them." As they make their way over, Maya can't help but notice the guard's eyes lock onto her as she approaches. His expression shifts from casual indifference to something more guarded, more watchful. Maya's stomach sinks. She's been here before. The feeling of being scrutinized, of being judged before she's even spoken a word, is all too familiar. But there's no turning back now. Ben needs help, and Maya is determined to make sure he gets it. The sun is beginning to set, casting long shadows over the park, and Maya can feel the weight of the day settling on her shoulders. The park is still busy, filled with families, joggers, and groups of friends enjoying the warm evening. But despite the peaceful atmosphere, Maya feels a growing tension in her chest. She knows what's coming. She's been in similar situations before, and they rarely end without some degree of discomfort. As she and Ben approach the security kiosk, Maya can feel the security guard's eyes on her, tracking their every step. His posture shifts subtly, going from relaxed to alert. He stands up straighter, his hand moving instinctively to his radio, as if preparing for something more serious than a lost child. The vendor he'd been chatting with pauses mid-conversation, her eyes flicking curiously between Maya and the boy. Maya takes a deep breath, steadying herself. She knows this feeling all too well, the scrutiny, the suspicion. The guard's gaze isn't just one of concern for the child, it's a deeper, more insidious kind of watchfulness, one that questions her very presence with Ben. "Excuse me," Maya says, keeping her voice calm and polite. "This little boy is lost, and I was hoping you could help us find his mother." The security guard's eyes narrow slightly as he looks down at Ben, who is still clutching Maya's hand tightly. For a moment, the guard doesn't respond. He's sizing up the situation, his gaze flicking from Ben to Maya and back again, as if trying to piece together a puzzle that, to him, doesn't quite fit. "Is that right?" the guard finally says, his voice measured. He kneels down, speaking to Ben directly. "Hey there, little guy. What's your name?" "Ben," the boy says quietly, his grip on Maya's hand tightening. "And where's your mom, Ben?" the guard asks, his tone softer now, but there's still an edge to it, a hint of doubt that makes Maya's stomach churn. "I don't know," Ben replies, his voice trembling. "I can't find her." Maya watches the interaction, her heart pounding in her chest. She can see the doubt in the guard's eyes, the unspoken questions lingering there. Is this really her child? Why is she with him? Should I be worried? The guard stands up again, his eyes now fully focused on Maya. "So how did you two meet?" he asks, his tone polite but laced with suspicion. Maya forces herself to stay calm. She knows she has nothing to hide, but the tension in the air is palpable, and it makes her feel like she's on trial. "I saw him standing by himself near the park entrance," she explains, keeping her voice steady. "He looked scared, and I asked if he was lost. He said he couldn't find his mom, so I brought him here to get help." The guard nods slowly, But Maya can tell he's not entirely convinced. She's been in situations like this before, where people's first instincts aren't to believe her, but to question her motives, to wonder if she's really telling the truth. It's an exhausting, never-ending cycle, one she's forced to navigate time and time again. "I see," the guard says, his tone still guarded. He reaches for his radio, speaking into it quietly. "I've got a lost child at the security kiosk," he says. "We're looking for the mother now." Maya watches as he speaks, feeling a mixture of relief and frustration. She knows that the guard is just doing his job, but the way he's looking at her, like she's a potential threat rather than someone trying to help, stings. She's used to these assumptions, but that doesn't make them any easier to bear. As they wait for more information, a few people walk by, glancing curiously at the scene. Maya catches snippets of their conversations. Whispers, murmurs, questions. She feels their eyes on her, their stares heavy with judgment. She can almost hear the unspoken thoughts in their minds. Why is she with that boy? Is she really trying to help him? Shouldn't the police be involved? Maya tries to ignore them, but it's hard not to feel the weight of their assumptions pressing down on her. She knows what they're thinking, and it frustrates her to no end. She's just a woman trying to do the right thing, but to them, she's something else, someone to be questioned, someone to be suspicious of. Ben tugs on her hand, his small voice breaking through her thoughts. "Is my mommy going to find me?" he asks, his eyes wide with fear. Maya kneels down beside him, forcing a reassuring smile onto her face. "Yes, Ben," she says softly. "We're going to find her, I promise." The guard clears his throat, drawing Maya's attention back to him. "We're broadcasting a description of the boy over the park's PA system," he says. "Hopefully we'll hear from his mother soon." Maya nods, but she can still feel the tension in the air. She can see the way the guard is watching her, carefully, cautiously. It's as if he's waiting for something to go wrong, as if he expects her to reveal some ulterior motive at any moment. Minutes pass, each one stretching out longer than the last. The whispers around them continue, and Maya's patience wears thinner. She can feel the eyes of the crowd growing more curious, more suspicious. The longer they wait, the more uncomfortable she feels, as if every second is another step toward being unfairly judged. Finally, a voice crackles over the guard's radio. "We found the mother," it says. She's heading toward the kiosk now. Maya breathes a sigh of relief, but the tension doesn't fully leave her. She knows that this isn't over yet. The hardest part is still to come, when the mother arrives, and Maya has to hope that she won't face the same scrutiny from the woman she's been trying to help. Ben's hand slips from hers as he steps forward, his eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of his mother. His excitement is palpable, but Maya can't shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. And then she sees her, Ben's mother, rushing through the crowd, her face a mask of panic and desperation. She's weaving through the people with frantic energy, her eyes searching wildly until they land on her son. "Ben," she calls out, her voice filled with relief. The boy's face lights up, and he runs toward her without hesitation. Maya watches as the two of them collide in a tearful embrace, the mother clutching Ben to her chest as if she never wants to let him go. Maya steps back, giving them space. She feels a pang of emotion, a mixture of happiness for Ben and a strange sadness that she can't quite place. She's glad that the boy is safe, but there's a part of her that knows this moment isn't as simple as a joyful reunion. She can see the mother's eyes darting between her and Ben, uncertainty written all over her face. "Thank you," the woman says, her voice trembling. "Thank you for helping my son." Maya nods, offering a small, tired smile. "I'm just glad he's safe," she replies, but she can see it in the mother's eyes. The doubt, the hesitation. There's gratitude there, but it's mixed with something else. The woman looks at Maya as if she's still trying to piece together what happened, still wondering if there's more to the story than she's been told. The guard, sensing that his role is over, steps back as well. The tension in the air begins to dissipate, but it doesn't fully leave. The mother holds Ben close, her eyes flicking between Maya and the security guard, unsure of what to make of the situation. Maya knows that this moment isn't about her. It's about Ben and his mother, and their reunion. But the sting of being doubted, of being judged, lingers in the air, refusing to fade away completely. The woman thanks Maya again, this time with more sincerity, but there's still a shadow of hesitation behind her words. And Maya, ever the picture of grace, accepts it with quiet dignity, knowing that sometimes doing the right thing isn't enough to erase the assumptions people hold. As the mother leads Ben away, Maya watches them go, feeling both relieved and weary. The day had taken more out of her than she expected. She'd helped reunite a child with his mother, but the weight of society's prejudices had made it a much heavier task than it should have been. With a deep breath, Maya turns and begins to walk home, her mind swirling with the complex emotions of the day. The stares of assumption may follow her wherever she goes, but she won't let them define her actions. The last of the evening sun stretches thin across the sky, casting a warm amber glow on the park as Maya walks slowly away from the security kiosk. The reunion she had witnessed moments earlier, between Ben and his mother, should have brought her a sense of peace. But instead, Maya feels the familiar tension that never quite leaves her in moments like these. It's the weight of unspoken assumptions, the silent judgment she knows all too well. The mother's gratitude had been real, but beneath it had lingered something else, something harder to define. As Maya continues to walk, her thoughts begin to churn. She thinks about how easily the situation could have escalated, how just moments before Ben's mother appeared, she had been surrounded by the security guard's cautious gaze, watched by onlookers who had already decided that Maya's presence with a lost child was somehow suspicious. It had been the same story so many times in her life. No matter how good her intentions, no matter how right her actions, there was always someone ready to misinterpret her. She sighs, stopping for a moment under a large oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. She glances back toward the kiosk, where Ben and his mother had finally left, heading back to their lives that had intersected with hers in a way that left her feeling both fulfilled and frustrated. A child had been returned to his family, but the subtle undertones of prejudice had dampened the moment of kindness. As she stands there, lost in thought, a voice breaks through the quiet hum of the park. "Hey!" someone calls out. It's sharp, loud enough to cut through the din of distant conversations and the rustling of leaves. Maya turns, her heart momentarily skipping a beat, and sees the security guard from earlier approaching her. His demeanor has shifted slightly from cautious to more relaxed, but Maya feels a familiar wariness settle in her chest. "I just wanted to check in," the guard says as he stops a few feet away from her. His tone is friendlier now, but Maya can still sense the undercurrent of doubt. "I mean, you did a good thing back there, helping the kid and all." Maya offers a polite nod, her face composed, though inside she feels her guard going up. "I'm just glad he's with his mother now," she replies, her voice steady. The guard shifts awkwardly, as if he's not quite sure what to say next. He clears his throat. "Yeah, about that. I hope you didn't take things the wrong way earlier. You know, when we were asking you all those questions. It's just protocol, you understand?" Maya knows where this is going. She's heard these kinds of explanations before. It's never personal, they say. Just doing our jobs, just being cautious. But Maya knows better. She knows that her presence had raised red flags, not because of her actions, but because of who she is, how she looks. It's a pattern she's seen throughout her life, one that never really changes, no matter how much time passes or how often she proves herself. "I understand," she says, her tone diplomatic. She doesn't want to engage in this conversation any longer than necessary. She wants to go home, to shake off the lingering tension of the day. The guard hesitates, as if searching for the right words, then nods. Good, it's just, well, we have to be careful, you know?" Maya suppresses a sigh. "I know," she says, though she's not sure she really believes it. "It's fine. I just wanted to help." There's a pause, and Maya can feel the guard's eyes on her, as if he's trying to reconcile the woman in front of him with whatever assumptions he might have made earlier. "Well, anyway," he says, finally breaking the silence, "thanks for what you did. That kid could have been lost for hours if it wasn't for you." Maya nods, her lips curving into a faint smile, though it doesn't quite reach her eyes. "You're welcome." The guard offers a small, awkward wave before turning and walking back toward the kiosk. Maya watches him go, her mind racing with thoughts she wishes she didn't have to carry. It's always the same. The doubt, The questioning, the constant need to prove that she's not a threat, that she's just a person trying to do good in a world that doesn't always give her the benefit of the doubt. As she turns to leave the park for good, her phone buzzes in her pocket. She pulls it out and sees a message from her best friend Zoe, asking her how her day went. Maya smiles a little as she types out a quick response, her fingers moving faster as she shares the story of what had just happened. She knows Zoe will get it. Zoe always gets it. Not 5 minutes later, her phone buzzes again, and Maya chuckles at the flood of messages from Zoe. Wait, what? They thought you did what? People are unbelievable sometimes. But you did the right thing, Maya. You always do. Maya smiles at her friend's words, feeling a little lighter. Zoe has always been her sounding board, the one person she can vent to without feeling like she has to hold back. They've known each other since high school, and through the years Zoe has always been there, supporting her through every tough situation. Yeah, well, you know how it is. People see what they want to see. I'm just glad the kid's safe. Still, you're amazing, you know that? Haha, thanks. Just doing what anyone would have done. Not anyone. Most people just walk by, but not you. That's why you're one of a kind, girl. Maya's smile softens. It's true, she thinks. Most people had walked by. They'd seen Ben standing there, scared and alone, but they'd kept going, too absorbed in their own lives to stop and help. Maybe they hadn't wanted to get involved. Maybe they'd assumed someone else would handle it. Or maybe, Maya thinks with a hint of bitterness, they just hadn't wanted to engage because it wasn't their problem. Whatever the case, Maya had done what she always tries to do. She had stepped in when others wouldn't. She had taken on the weight of someone else's fear, their assumptions, and their judgment, and she had carried it because she knew she could. And even though it hadn't been easy, even though it had left her feeling raw and exposed, she didn't regret it. As she walks toward the edge of the park, Maya feels her phone buzz again. This time it's not Zoe, it's an unknown number, and for a moment, Maya hesitates to answer, but curiosity gets the better of her, and she swipes to open the message. Unknown number. Hi, this is Ben's mom. The security guard gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I just wanted to say thank you again for helping my son today. I was so scared when I couldn't find him, and I can't even imagine what could have happened if you hadn't stepped in. Maya blinks at the message, her heart softening. She hadn't expected this. Most of the time, after situations like these, people simply move on with their lives, grateful in the moment, but not looking back. The fact that Ben's mother had taken the time to reach out to express her gratitude again surprises Maya in the best way. Maya, no problem at all. I'm just glad he's okay. There's a pause, and Maya wonders if the conversation is over. But then another message comes through. Ben's mom. I also wanted to apologize if I came off as hesitant or anything earlier. It's just, I was so overwhelmed, and I didn't know what to think. But I shouldn't have let that cloud my judgment. You did something so kind, and I'm truly, truly grateful. Maya stands still for a moment, absorbing the words. Apologies like this are rare. So rare, in fact, that it leaves her momentarily speechless. She's used to people moving on without a second thought, without considering the weight of their assumptions. But this is different. Maya, thank you. I understand. It's a scary thing, losing your child. I'm just glad I could help. Maya slips her phone back into her pocket, her heart feeling a little lighter, a little less burdened. Maybe the day hadn't gone the way she'd hoped, but in the end, she knows that her actions had made a difference. And for once, someone had seen beyond the assumptions. Someone had recognized her kindness for what it truly was. As she finally leaves the park behind, the sounds of the city fading into the background, Maya allows herself a small smile. Today had been a reminder of both the struggles she faces and the goodness that still exists, even in the most unexpected places. And though the world may still be heavy with its assumptions, Maya knows she can carry them. She's carried them all her life, and she will keep carrying them, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. Maya walked slowly through the quiet streets, the sounds of the city gradually fading behind her. As the evening descended fully into night, the air cooled, and the bustling park scene was replaced by a tranquil calm. The stillness should have been comforting, but her thoughts continued to race, replaying the day's events. She couldn't shake the feeling of how easily things could have gone differently. The tension she'd felt in the park wasn't new. It was a constant presence in her life. But today, the burden of it all weighed heavier. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, seeing another message from Ben's mother. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of her. "Ben's mom, I know I've already said this, but I really want you to know how grateful I am. I've been thinking about what happened today, and I realized something. I don't think I've ever questioned my own assumptions like I did today. And that's because of you." Maya stopped in her tracks, the words settling in her mind. She hadn't expected this at all. It wasn't often that people reflected on their biases, let alone admitted to them. In Maya's experience, most people moved on with their lives, rarely giving a second thought to the assumptions they'd made or the judgments they'd passed. Yet here was Ben's mother, reaching out again, acknowledging not just her gratitude but her own personal growth. Maya leaned against a lamppost, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, unsure of what to say. She didn't want to brush off the moment, but she also didn't want to delve too deeply into the emotional weight of it. She appreciated the message, she truly did, but it opened up wounds that Maya wasn't sure she was ready to explore right now. Finally, she typed a quick response. "Maya, I'm really glad to hear that. It takes a lot to reflect like that. I'm just glad Ben is safe." She hit send and slipped her phone back into her pocket, exhaling slowly. Maya wasn't angry with Ben's mother. If anything, she felt a sense of admiration for her willingness to confront the prejudice she hadn't even realized she held. But it was still bittersweet. Maya had spent so much of her life navigating these waters, constantly aware of how she was perceived, how easily people's assumptions could shift from harmless to harmful. The day had started so normally, but now, as she walked through the city streets, it was as though the weight of all those moments throughout her life had culminated here, tonight. Every glance, every whisper, every moment of suspicion, it all swirled together, pressing down on her. And yet, today had also been different. There had been a glimmer of hope in Ben's mother's words, a sign that maybe, just maybe, people could change. Maya's thoughts were interrupted as her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Ben's mother, but Zoe, her best friend, checking in again. "Zoe, hey, you okay? I've been thinking about what you said earlier. Sounds like it was a tough day." Maya smiled softly, feeling a wave of affection for her friend. Zoe had always been there for her, through the ups and downs, the good days and the bad. She was the one person who understood Maya without needing explanations. They had shared so many late-night conversations, venting about the frustrations of the world, the unfairness, the exhaustion of it all. Zoe didn't always have the answers, but she listened, and sometimes that was enough. "Yeah, I'm okay, just processing everything. You know how it is." A few seconds later, Zoe's response came through. "I get it. People suck sometimes, but you did the right thing. Don't forget that." Maya leaned against the lamppost, staring at her phone for a moment. She felt a surge of warmth in her chest, the kind that comes from knowing you're truly understood. Zoe wasn't just offering empty comfort. She knew exactly what Maya was feeling because they had both lived through it, time and time again. The world didn't always see them the way they deserved to be seen, but at least they had each other. "Maya, thanks. I needed to hear that." "Always. Hey, you want to grab dinner sometime this week?" "My treat." Maya's smile widened. Zoe's light-heartedness was always a balm for her soul, especially after days like this. "Maya, I'd love that. Let me know when you're free." She slipped her phone back into her pocket and resumed walking, feeling a bit lighter. But as she walked, her mind continued to wander back to the park, to the looks she had received, to the way Ben's mother had hesitated before thanking her. It wasn't the first time Maya had experienced something like this, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. She thought back to the guard at the kiosk, to the way his posture had shifted the moment he'd seen her with Ben. She remembered the way the couple on the bench had whispered as she walked by, their voices laced with doubt and suspicion. Those moments lingered in her mind, clinging to her like a shadow that refused to disappear. And yet, there had been something different today, too. Ben's mother had seen through her initial fear and hesitation. She had reached out to Maya not once but twice, acknowledging her own prejudice and offering a sincere apology. It was a small gesture, but it mattered. It was a reminder that not everyone stayed trapped in their assumptions forever. Maya knew that the world was full of people who would never question their biases, who would continue to make snap judgments based on nothing more than appearances. But today, she had seen a glimmer of something else, something that gave her hope. Ben's mother had confronted her own prejudice and had chosen to do better. That, in itself, was a victory. The sound of footsteps behind her broke Maya's train of thought. She turned slightly, glancing over her shoulder to see a woman walking briskly toward her. It took a moment for Maya to realize who it was, Ben's mother. Her heart skipped a beat as the woman approached, her face flushed with what seemed like a mix of embarrassment and determination. "Maya?" the woman called, slightly out of breath. Maya stopped in her tracks, confused and a little wary. "Yes?" The woman caught up to her, standing just a few feet away. She looked nervous, fidgeting with the strap of her purse. I'm so glad I caught you," she said, her voice wavering slightly. I couldn't stop thinking about everything that happened today, and I realized I needed to talk to you in person." Maya blinked, unsure of what to say. She had already received the messages from the woman, and while they had been surprising, she hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected a face-to-face confrontation. The woman took a deep breath, clearly trying to steady herself. "I was so scared today when I couldn't find Ben," she began, her voice shaky. "And when I saw you with him, I don't know what I was thinking. I was panicked, and I assumed things that I shouldn't have." Maya remained silent, letting the woman speak. She could see the struggle in the woman's eyes, the weight of her own guilt pressing down on her. It wasn't an easy thing, confronting your own biases. Maya knew that. "I was wrong," the woman continued, her voice growing stronger. "I judged you, and I shouldn't have. You were the one who helped my son when no one else did. And I wanted to say thank you again. But I also wanted to say I'm sorry." Maya took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions swirl inside her. She could see the sincerity in the woman's eyes, the genuine remorse. It wasn't often that people admitted their mistakes so openly, and Maya could appreciate the courage it took to do so. "Thank you," Maya said softly, her voice steady. "It means a lot that you're saying this." The woman nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know it doesn't change what happened, but I want to do better. I don't want to be that person who makes assumptions about others, especially when I don't know the full story." Maya smiled, a small but genuine smile. "That's all any of us can do, try to be better." The woman let out a shaky breath, relief washing over her face. "Thank you," she said again, her voice filled with emotion. "You didn't have to help my son, but you did, and I'll never forget that." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of closure settle over her. She hadn't expected this encounter, but she was grateful for it. It was a reminder that even in a world full of prejudice, people could change. They could learn. They could grow. As the woman turned to leave, Maya stood there for a moment, watching her disappear into the distance. She felt lighter, freer. Today had been hard, but it had also been a reminder of the power of compassion, of the possibility for change. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt a flicker of hope. The night had fully settled by the time Maya reached her apartment. The cool air brushed against her skin, and the stars began to sprinkle across the sky. Her thoughts were quieter now, not as heavy or frantic as they had been earlier. The unexpected meeting with Ben's mother had left her feeling something she wasn't entirely used to: hope. Maya hadn't anticipated such a deep reflection from the woman, nor had she expected to be approached with such vulnerability. But now, walking the final stretch home, Maya felt a warmth within her, like a small but steady flame burning. Unlocking the door to her apartment, Maya stepped inside, the familiar comfort of her space enveloping her. The soft hum of her refrigerator, the scent of lavender from a diffuser, and the faint sound of jazz coming from the radio she'd left on before leaving for work that morning, it all made her feel grounded again. It was her sanctuary, a place where the outside world couldn't touch her, where the weight of assumptions and judgments had no room. As she set her keys on the counter, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo. A picture of Ben, grinning from ear to ear, holding his stuffed bear with his mother kneeling beside him. A short message followed. Ben's mom. He wanted to show you that he found his bear again, just like you helped him find me. Thank you again, Maya. Maya's lips curled into a smile as she stared at the photo. The innocence in Ben's face, the pure joy, these were the moments that made everything worth it. She felt a swell of emotions rise within her, but this time, there was no bitterness, no frustration. Instead, there was pride, a sense of fulfillment that her kindness had left an imprint on someone else's life. The world wasn't always kind, but tonight it felt like a small corner of it had changed, even if just a little. Sinking into her couch, Maya allowed herself a moment of reflection. Her life had never been simple. It had never been easy to navigate the stereotypes and assumptions people placed on her. As a black woman, she knew that people often saw her before they really saw her. She had grown accustomed to being cautious, to watching her step and monitoring her words in certain spaces. It wasn't fair, but it was a reality she had learned to live with. Yet, despite all of that, she had never lost her sense of compassion. Even when the world felt harsh, Maya had always found strength in her ability to empathize. She knew what it was like to feel invisible, to feel like no one was willing to help or stand beside you. And so, she had made a conscious decision long ago. No matter how the world treated her, she would choose kindness. That decision hadn't always been easy. There had been days when the weight of other people's biases felt like too much to bear. Moments when she had doubted herself, when she had wondered if it was worth it to keep putting herself in situations where she knew she'd be judged. But tonight, the picture of Ben's smiling face reminded her that it was worth it. If her actions could make a difference, even just to one person, then it was all worth it. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Zoe, sending a quick message. Zoe, so, are we having dinner this week or what? I need to hear every detail of today. I can't believe you had to deal with all that. Maya laughed softly, her heart lifting at the thought of catching up with her friend. Zoe always had a way of making the world feel lighter, even when it wasn't. She texted back quickly. Yes, let's. I need some good food and event session. Done. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at our spot? Perfect. With that, Maya put her phone down and let herself sink deeper into the couch, her body finally relaxing. The events of the day were beginning to settle in her mind, no longer overwhelming but forming into a story she would carry with her. A reminder of the unexpected kindness that could emerge, even from difficult situations. Suddenly, her thoughts drifted back to the park, to that first moment when she had seen Ben standing there, lost and afraid. She remembered how quickly she had hesitated, not because she didn't want to help, but because of the fear of how others might perceive her. It was a hesitation born of experience, the kind of pause that came from living in a world where her every action was scrutinized. But even then, she had stepped forward. She had pushed past the fear and doubt because a child had needed help. It wasn't lost on her that most people had walked by without offering assistance. In a world that moved so quickly, where everyone was consumed with their own lives, it was easy to overlook a scared child standing alone. But it hadn't been lost on her. Maya had seen him, really seen him, in the way she had always hoped others would see her. It was a moment of connection, of empathy, that transcended all the unspoken barriers. The stares she had received that day, the whispered assumptions, they had been painful, yes, but they hadn't stopped her. And now, looking back, Maya realized that they never truly could. She had chosen kindness, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Her phone buzzed again, and this time she saw another message from Ben's mother. Ben's mom. I know we don't know each other, but I'd really like to stay in touch. You made such an impact on me today, and I'd love for Ben to know that there are people in this world like you. People who do good even when it's hard. I want him to grow up seeing that. Maya stared at the message, feeling a lump rise in her throat. It was such a simple sentiment, but it carried so much weight. She hadn't just helped reunite a child with his mother. She had, in some small way, changed how that mother saw the world. Maya had shown her that the assumptions people make about race, about character, about intentions, could be wrong. And in doing so, she had opened a door, one that allowed Ben's mother to see beyond the biases she hadn't even known she carried. Maya typed back, her heart full. Maya, I'd love that. It means a lot to hear you say that. Let's definitely stay in touch. She sent the message and sat back, allowing the moment to wash over her. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not just for what she had done, but for the ripple effect it had caused. By simply choosing to act with compassion, Maya had unknowingly shifted someone else's perspective. It was a reminder that kindness, though often underappreciated or misunderstood, had the power to change hearts. It had the power to challenge prejudice, to break down barriers, to create connections where none existed before. In a world that so often felt divided, moments like this mattered. They weren't always grand or obvious, but they were there. Small instances of humanity shining through the cracks. And tonight, Maya was content knowing she had been a part of that. The next morning, Maya awoke to a bright, clear sky, the sunlight streaming through her curtains. As she got ready for the day, she couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more moments where she would have to confront the biases of others. But now she had a reminder of the power of kindness, of how one small act could have a lasting impact. Later that week, as she sat across from Zoe at their favorite restaurant, Maya recounted the events of the day to her friend, sharing not just the difficult parts but the beautiful moments too. Zoe listened intently, her eyes wide with admiration. "You're incredible. You know that?" Zoe said, shaking her head in disbelief. "I mean, you dealt with all that judgment, but you still came out on top. You're like a kindness superhero or something." Maya laughed, feeling the warmth of her friend's words. "I don't know about superhero," she said, smiling, "but I'm trying." Zoe raised her glass. "To trying, and to making the world a better place, one small act at a time." Maya clinked her glass against Zoe's, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. "To kindness," she agreed, her heart full. As they sipped their drinks and continued their conversation, Maya felt lighter than she had in days. The world wasn't perfect, far from it, but in that moment, surrounded by friendship and filled with hope, she knew that she had the power to make a difference. And that was enough. The story ends with Maya embracing the impact of her kindness, realizing that even in a world full of prejudice, her actions have the power to change lives. Through her empathy and willingness to help, she challenges assumptions and fosters connection, leaving both Ben's mother and herself with a renewed sense of hope. The chapter closes on a high note, with Maya surrounded by friendship and optimism for the future, reminding us all of the profound impact kindness can have on the world. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Click on the video now to watch. We appreciate your support, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.